Hi, I'm Judy. Welcome to Go with Yin Yoga. Today I have a somewhat short Yin Yoga practice. It's roughly 35, maybe 40 minutes. And we are all about our edge in August. And I will invite your attention to the card that should come up right about now. I have a short vlog talking a bit more about edge. All the practices in August 2022 are going to revolve around your edge. So for this practice, you're going to need a bolster. It is optional. I do suggest it. Always suggest a couple of blocks. I think a couple of yoga blankets would be very good. And come into an easy seated position. We're going to start all of our practices this month or just some cleansing breaths, excuse me. And that just looks like inhaling through your nose and then exhaling through your mouth, really sighing it out. Let everything go. So just let everything go that happened before you came to your mat. And I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you and continue with that pattern of breathing in through your nose and really sighing it out through your mouth while I talk to you a little bit more about what this practice will be about. And yes, I have a little cheat sheet there. So we are theming around the spleen meridian in this practice. And the spleen is associated with worry and anxiety and frustration. That's on a very subtle level. On a physical level, this is a really great yin yoga practice for runners or anybody who sits a lot, but active people, runners in particular, it's going to strengthen your entire posterior chain. Okay. And the last thing I want you to know about this practice is we are also focusing on our breath. And I will talk about that a little bit more as we get into it. If you are sitting on a block like I am, I suggest that you come off of that now. You can let your breathing go. And you might want some folded blankets. I didn't bring blankets out today, but I do have this pillow that is not quite as high as this bolster. I want your hips to be above your knees. It's going to make things much more comfortable for you. Hopefully you don't have to work around a dog like I do right now. And stretch your legs out to either side of the four corners of your mat. Hopefully sitting up on some blankets or possibly a block or a relatively thin pillow, just to elevate those hips a little bit, make things a little bit more comfortable. This is called dragonfly. And to begin with, come into this pose with a straight back. Let your feet relax. So we're trying to find our edge in yin yoga. We're trying to find where the space where we push ourselves a little so that we grow. And on a physical level, that's specifically to strengthen our connective tissue. But as I said in the beginning, it's not just your physical level, it's also the subtle level. And this is a great practice if you do have a lot of anxiety, if you are feeling frustrated or worried. This is a great practice. So when your breath becomes really shallow, really choppy, not smooth, you probably have gone past your edge. So I want you to pay attention to your breath during this practice. And I have an affirmation for you, which is I calm my breath and that calms my thoughts. And I want you to think about that as we're practicing and seeing if that's really true for you. Now we've been in this position for a while, so you've probably come to your first edge. And you might want to walk your hands out a little bit. You can also put them on a couple of blocks. I'm not going to today, but you can. And perhaps you feel you can go a little deeper into those hamstrings. These practices are relatively short, but I'm also challenging you to hold these very simple poses for a slightly longer amount of time than many of my videos invite you to hold them. So we're going for about 4 to 5 minutes for most of the poses. Tuck your chin just a little bit, thinking about having a very straight spine and having your neck in line with your spine. And now that we've been in the pose a few minutes, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and round your back, let your head drop down towards the mat. Let the head be really heavy. And as you begin to feel sensation, notice what your breath is doing. Maybe it's still long and smooth and deep, but maybe you find it's begun to be a bit more challenging, a bit more choppy, in which case it's probably a good idea to back off a little bit. One of the other principles of yin yoga is being in stillness in our poses. And that doesn't mean we don't ever move, because as we're holding the poses for a longer amount of time, you should feel an opening, and you may be able to go deeper. And just a couple more breaths here. Wherever you are, go ahead and push into your hands and begin to walk them back towards your body. Take your legs a little bit more than hip width apart. Lean back on your hands and then just let your knees come together. So we had our legs really far apart, and now we're just bringing them together for a short amount of time. Just for a few breaths. And notice what you feel as you do this. Maybe you notice a shift in your energy. And whatever you've been sitting on, if you are, go ahead and come off of that and put it over to the side. You will need it later. Come into a tabletop position, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. And go ahead on an inhale, step your right foot forward so you're basically into a low lunge. And if this feels a little difficult for you, you can always take your hand to a couple of blocks. And then begin to turn your right foot out towards the edge of the mat. Bring the right hand inside that right leg and let the knee fall out a little bit. Winged dragon. As I calm my breath, my thoughts calm down. Again, bring your attention to your breath. Notice if there's been a change, not judging it, but thinking about whether or not you need to back off a little bit, or maybe even go deeper into the pose. And also letting your muscles of your legs relax as much as possible. Because we're not strengthening our muscles here, we'll get some strengthening, but we're trying to get into that connective tissue, the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia, maybe even the bones a little bit. And you can always feel free to also come down onto your elbows. That deepens the stretch. It's a very intense stretch. It's already pretty intense. I'm going to stay right where I am. And you always have the option to pad your knees as well if it feels uncomfortable on your knees. Couple more breaths. On your next inhale, begin to bring that left glute back up. Take your right foot back to meet the left, and then push your hips back to your heels. And just take a rest in child's pose, just for a few breaths. And it doesn't have to be your deepest child's pose ever either. Begin to press into your hands to come back up. On your next inhale, step your left foot forward. Hands come on the inside of that left foot. The left foot begins to turn out towards the left. And that left knee begins to fall open. And of course, if it's uncomfortable for you to have that knee fall open, don't do it. If it's uncomfortable, if it's painful, then you found that edge. What is your breath doing? You feel any opening anywhere in your body, not necessarily in your hips or your legs, maybe across your upper back. Maybe you can breathe a little easier. Notice where you're holding on, where you're using muscular contraction. See if you can soften that, even if it's just 10%. And on your next inhale, bring that left knee in, and then begin to come back onto your right leg. Slowly bring the left leg back to meet the right. Into a tabletop position, and then push back into child's pose for a few breaths. Notice if you feel energy shifting again, perhaps moving, tingling, pulsing. And then walk your hands back towards your legs. And I'm going to demo our next move. You're probably pretty familiar with it if you're a runner. And I'm going to show two ways to do it. So you're going to come back up into tabletop, stretch your right foot forward, and then begin to heel toe that right foot over to your left hand, bringing the right knee out towards the right side, stretching the leg behind you. And this is known as pigeon pose in regular yoga, air quotes. I actually love it. It generally feels pretty good in my body, but for a lot of people, this can be a lot of sensation. So I'm going to demo another option. Feel free to take that regular swan, as we call it in yin yoga, or make it a bit more restorative, which is what I'm going to do. I find this feels really good in my body. So you're going to need one thicker bolster or a lot of blankets, and then just a few blankets, a slightly thinner pillow. The thick bolster points towards the short end of the mat, and the thinner one goes horizontally across the mat. And you're still in a tabletop position. On your inhale, go ahead and bring your right foot forward, just a little bit behind that bolster, and again, begin to heel toe it across to your left hand. And you may need to adjust that back bolster and the front bolster. Bring the front bolster to that leg. And then just bring yourself down on top of the bolster. Head turns towards one side. And if you've never tried this, I really highly suggest that you do. As I said, you're still getting a lot of sensation. You're still getting strengthening, but in a more restorative way. As I calm my breath, I calm my thoughts. Couple of breaths here. And then just begin to walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Slowly push yourself up. And once again, little child's pose. You can use the bolsters. Let's take a few breaths here before we go on to our second side. And then go ahead, come back up into your tabletop position, step your left foot forward, and then slowly heel toe it across so it comes towards the right hand. Stretch that right foot out behind you. And I'm actually, going to readjust this and hopefully not turn it off. Oh dear. It's a little cranky sometimes if I lay on it. Okay. Coming onto your bolster, turn your face towards the bent knee. As I calm my breath, I calm my thoughts. Go ahead and bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, pressing into your hands to bring yourself upright. Stepping back over your pillow if you are using it, and bringing your hips to your heels. Just a short little stop and child's pose. Go ahead and bring yourself upright. If you're using a thinner pillow, go ahead and put that off to the side. If you have a bolster, go ahead and put it horizontally across your mat. Bring your knees over the bolster and slowly come down onto your elbows and then all the way onto your back for Shavasana. If you don't have a bolster, you can take a couple blocks and put them under your knees. And of course, you can have your legs right on your mat. For some people, that's a little uncomfortable for the low back. And the bolsters under the knees or the blocks under the knees can help a little bit with that. And close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. I'm going to sit upright, hold space for you, and also to read you a little something to think about as you are integrating this spleen meridian yin yoga practice that is great for decreasing worry and anxiety and frustration. I know I feel so much calmer myself. And I just wanted to read this quote to you that I found on the Sun Warrior blog. Actually, Sun Warrior, if you're not familiar with it, is a plant-based protein. I think they have other products as well. I have used their protein powder. I do actually really like it. But I liked this post as this, what they wrote on their post as well, which was, the mind is connected to the body. The body is connected to the mind. And the breath reveals our emotional states. It is all connected. When we can harness the power of the breath and the power of the mind through the body, we flow through life with more ease and peace. And I truly believe that that is true. Continue laying in Shavasana with your eyes closed, and I will hold space for you and let you know when it's time to move. Keeping your eyes closed if they're already closed. Maybe shutting them a little bit more if they're not. Begin to deepen your breath. Take any small movements you need to come back into your body. Maybe you move your neck from side to side, up and down, your face that is. Maybe wiggle the hips slowly back and forth, or even maybe some windshield wipers. Letting your knees fall to one side and then the other slowly. And then letting that go, coming to stillness. Inhale, take your arms up overhead on your mat, stretching from the tips of your toes all the way up to the tips of your fingertips. Big stretch. And then pull one knee into your chest and then the other. Keeping your eyes closed, slowly and gently let your knees fall over to one side. Take the bottom hand, stretch it out along the mat and place your head on top of it. Pillowing your head with your arm. Take a few deep breaths here. Letting the whole body relax. And still keeping those eyes closed, slowly begin to push yourself upright, coming into an easy seated position. Inhale the palms of your hands together and begin to rub the palms together, creating awareness, creating heat, and then let your palms still in front of your heart, bowing your head over your hands. Slowly begin to blink your eyes open. Taking in your mat, maybe the floor or the earth if you're outside, and then slowly with a smile, raising your head and letting your hands go. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Remember, whenever you practice yoga, and it really doesn't matter what style it is, your breath is a big cue to whether or not you're going to your edge, maybe going over your edge, or maybe not going deep enough into a pose. It's true in pretty much any style of yoga, and it's particularly true in yin yoga because we hold poses for so long, and it can become very challenging. But the payoffs are great too. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Thank you so much for choosing this channel. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. I do have a weekly newsletter. You can sign up underneath. There's a link in the little description box underneath. And I hope that you feel much less anxious, much less frustrated, and very calm after this practice.